All right. What's up, everybody? It's Ryan J Downy with Knotfest.com. I am here hanging virtually in the Zoom with my friend Hyro. Hyro, what's up?
What's going down, man? Chilling.
How are you? How are you? And then we have a friend of yours, AJ.
Me.
Why don't we talk about, just jumping right in, how the two of you first became acquainted, how you heard of one another, how you became familiar with one another's music, and how that led to collaborating.
How did we meet? I remember knowing Five from the Gods when I first I hang out with Century Media. Shout out Don. It was a while ago, a long time ago, bro. And they
Don Robertson, the old president of Century Media. Yeah.
Yeah, Don, that's the homie, man. I just seen him the other day when I came from Seattle. And he had introduced me to, you know what I'm saying? He was showing, bro, these bands be doing rap and rock and all that. And I remember he showed me Five from the Gods. I was like, oh, this kind of dope right here, man. I was like, oh, some other brothers doing it, man. That's sick. That was my first introduction to Five from the Gods. I forget how we met, though. The first time we met was at Afro Punk.
No. When we met on, you were at the fuck, what was that tour with the Disrupt?
Oh, Disrupt. Yeah, you came through on Disrupt.
I heard about Hyro through a mutual acquaintance, a rapper from Austin called Zeely.
Yeah, shout out Zeely.
Zeely was like, yo, my boy Hyro is on Century Media, and you know, he's got something that's, you know, because Zeely was doing kind of like an indie, kind of backed by an indie band, but rapping. And he was like, my boy Hyro's doing something a little bit heavier, which is more, you know, along the lines of what you're doing, which is more like a metal with a rapper. And, you know, I heard it and was like, oh, this is aggressive. I love it, because that's just right down my alley. And then, you know, just, you know, we have the same lawyer. We then we have the same label now. So, you know, it's all kind of like
Uber driver one time.
Exactly. Yo, and then Uber driver, we were at Five from the Gods was in LA recording, and we got into an Uber. Yeah. And then this Uber driver goes, he's like, what are you guys doing that? And we're like, yeah, we're in a band, you know, rock band, blah, 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 blah. We go through the whole spiel. And then he's like, yo, I just had a customer, a passenger who was in a rock band. And he was like, yeah, he does stuff like that too. And I was like, was it Hyro? And he was like, yeah, that's the guy's name. And I was like, what the fuck? We're just like 2 steps behind each other sort of thing, you know, and like being in the same room and included in the same conversations. And so it just made sense that, you know, with what he's doing as far as this mixtape is concerned and the uniqueness of the project, it just only makes sense that, you know, we connected. And I was really happy and just honored to do it, because, you know what I'm saying, like he said, it's a tough world out there in this music thing, you know what I mean? So like, you know, if you can get together and hold each other up and work with each other, you might as well, dude, because a lot of guys don't do it, and it just sucks.
And then another cool thing is, my people from Trinidad, you know what I'm saying, and he got he's Jamaican, man, so we got swag to it, you feel me? So,
yeah, man, Hyro met my dad at Afro Punk, you know what I mean?
Man,
my dad was 3 hours late for the set. My dad was 3 hours late for the set on Jamaican time. But yeah, we vibe, man. We vibe, dude. It was cool, man. And it's a beautiful thing, man. Just having, you know what I'm saying? We're not an anomaly, and that's what I've always talked about, is like having black guys front a band or having a black member in a band. It's not an anomaly. It's not wow. It's not like the stars have aligned for something cool that's never happened before. But when you do connect and when we do things together, you know, that's Afrocentric or whatever you want to call it, it's just cool, man. It makes us feel good. You know what I'm saying?
People will be like, especially with the new song, people will be like, oh man, like 2 black rockers rocking, but really we just some rockers rocking. That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We just 2 rockers just doing what we do.
Rocking, but you know, people gonna make their own story too.
Did either of you guys watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah,
Plus recently.
Of course.
Yeah, it's like that scene where that kid's like, Black Falcon, and he's like, no, it's just Falcon.
Yeah. It's just
he's
Falcon.
like, you want me to call you Black Kid? He's like, it's Falcon.
Yeah.
It reminds me too of, you know, sometimes you hear this genre of like female fronted metal, and it's like, it's a metal band that has a female. It's like, it's just a metal band.
It burns me, man. You know? It burns me. It's like, yo, it's just another band.
But now there's so many. It's like, what? You don't even have to say that, you no more.
Yeah, the
you know?
idea that it's that any kind of anything that's not straight white dude rock band
Exactly.
is a novelty. There's so much now that if you were trying to list this kind of or that kind of or that kind of, you'd be going on forever. And that's that's the beauty of it now, is that it's so much broader, and that it's been that way.
It's just rock music, man. It's just rock music.
Yeah. And I did want to jump into that with you a little bit, AJ, because you're just in terms of geography, your background is so rich and so much experience, you know, to have been, you know, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but you were born in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Your mom's Jamaican descent, but you
My
lived
dad.
in London and LA, and I mean, you've lived all over the place. You grew up all over the place. How do you think those kind of experiences help inform what you do as an artist, as opposed to somebody who spent their whole life in one spot?
You know, just I answer this question so much that, you know, it's not like I have this kind of robotic kind of answer that I rattle off, because I think it just changes so much, and that's the uniqueness, and I guess what's special about the way I grew up is that the setting changed so much that I was able to just learn and pick up and observe. And, you know, while it was happening and you're a kid, you don't really think about, well, I'm gathering all this knowledge, or I'm gathering this perspective, or I'm gaining this unique perspective on life. You just see it as, oh my God, I've got to go where? You know, what? Do what? What? Yeah. You know, like when my mom told me you're going to Africa, I'm just like, what? For what? You know, and you have that common perception of, you know, as a Western kid, like what Africa might look like. And you tend to just, like people do, form an opinion. And once you get there, and once I got there, my opinion and my perspective on the situation completely changed. I mean, it was one of the greatest times of my life. I mean, I consider Ghana to be one of my homes. And, you know, we've got land there now and stuff. And you know, I just have so much family and friends, and that I've been able to garner. And you just learn, and you start to observe life. And the beauty and the downfall of American society is that we do have everything we could possibly need within the continental borders of our country. This country is so vast, and there's so many people, so many different types of people, that you could probably, if you did leave your hometown, you did leave the East Coast and went to the West Coast, or you leave New York and you go to Texas, you could be in a whole different world amongst a whole different type of people and learn. But the thing is, we are all still American, and we're all still, you know, centered around the idea of our Americanness. Whereas when you leave the country and you spend time outside the country and you meet other people from other parts of the world, then you start to see the vastness of the universe, and you start to think of yourself as part of, I don't want to sound cliche, but part of a team, more or less, than I'm just an individual from this part of the world. You know, you start to really see what people, where, like I've seen abject poverty and I've seen immense wealth, all within, you know, one particular area. And you can see you see how great we've got it here, and how good we have it in a land and in a culture where anybody can be anything. Literally, we really could. That's the name of the game here. But you see the rigidness of caste systems, and you learn how to really value what you have. And I was only going to be this type of artist, you know, as an artist, I was only going to be able to talk about these things. And I can't stray from it, because straying from that to me would be kind of not really giving the knowledge that I've been able to garner from traveling so much, giving it the respect that it deserved, the experiences. And I think people respect that. You know what I'm saying? And it gives me a light, this new grasp on life. Every time I think about it, you know, and when I get another memory, you know, when I go to England and I see my family, that's like going to New York. You know, I go to London, it's like going to New York. So, but it's different. But you know, Ghana and even like my time when I was in LA as a kid, it was wild. I used to say like, oh, when I get back to America, and I'd forget, like I'm in America, you know, but it was just so crazy, you know, being a kid from the Bronx and going to LA. I was just like, this is wild, you know, but it's beautiful, man. And I think that people respect that. And when you meet people from other parts of the world, then you can relate to them and just have little things that you can agree upon. You know, I think it really helps, man. And it's helped Fly from the Gods tremendously. And it's helped me as a person grow.
Indeed. And I think well said, all of that. And I think you make a great point about when you're a kid and you're living that experience, that's the only experience you know. You know, so it's just, you're like, this is totally normal. This is, you know, whereas
it's just another day.
Yeah. And for me, I grew up, you know, in a blue collar part of Indiana. And all I ever wanted to do growing up was get out, you know, because I felt really confined and trapped. Like I'm in this, like, you know, backwards place, and I want to get out and see the world and whatever. And that shapes you in a certain kind of way. It's you don't know that that's different, you know, from somebody else. I got to ask you, as somebody who's, you know, both of you immersed in this hip hop culture and in this rock and metal culture. And for me, somebody who grew up loving both and soaking up a lot from both, being, you know, identifying as being from the Bronx, but also having spent time in LA. I mean, to me, growing up in the middle of the country, New York, especially the Bronx in particular, that's the birthplace of hip hop. I mean, my favorite rapper of all time is KRS-One, and that's Boogie Down Bronx. But of course, West Coast hip hop has become, you know, had such a huge cultural impact and sway. And not by no means am I trying to get into the East Coast, West Coast conversation, because it's cliche and it's old and it's done with. But I would imagine that's yet another thing that you have kind of a unique perspective on, having literally spent formative years in places.
So I was telling, you know, this is funny. I was having a conversation with an old roommate of mine, and we were talking about this. And I was like, yo, he was like, where did it all turn? You know, like rap, what turned the tide? And I'll explain what he meant by the turning. But we were just talking about, you know, dudes from the East Coast, you know, like Boogie Down Productions. But once it turned, you know, and we will get into a little bit of the East Coast, West Coast thing, because I think it's funny. You know what I'm saying? Like the dudes were like flossing and about getting money in the East Coast, you know, and hustling, and, you know, and the girls and the trains, but and still telling very, you know, and then there was the consciousness, you know, KRS-One, Public Enemy, you know, there was like this universal consciousness, and Tribe Called Quest. They were talking about, you know, the realization of yourself and all that, and you know, very indicative of like New York City, and indicative of people who were a generation from the Panthers, and, you know, kids that their parents were Panthers or involved in the Nation of Islam, and just, you know, very. And
I love that KRS had that consciousness, but he still wasn't above throwing dude from PM Dawn off the stage.
Exactly.
You know, like there was some grit, you know.
But then, you know, you have the Cali dudes who were just like, yo, the streets are hard out here, and we're gonna tell this story. You know what I'm saying? And if you fuck with us, we might shoot you. You know what I'm saying? So that was like, that to me was like super appealing. You know what I mean? Because even like being from the Bronx at the time, like I was in Brooklyn a lot, because, you know, that's when a lot of my family were. So, you know, I was all about Biggie and all about, you know, everything happening in Bed-Stuy and Brooklyn this and Brooklyn that. But when Tupac and them came out with the, like, you know, like, who shot you and all that shit, you know, like, we were like, yo, fuck Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? We were like, yo, you know what I mean? We Junior Mafia and all that. We were like, yo, fuck Queens. Nah, dude. You know what I mean? But
and I'm just in the
so heavy, bro.
Yeah.
But see, that's what I'm learning now is about. I'm learning now about like the Third Coast. I never really knew about that, and now living in Texas, I'm learning all about. And I'm like, dude, these dudes are sick. You know, like I knew Ghetto Boys, but I didn't know.
I was gonna say Scarface. Ooh.
Yo, like, bro, and like all the cool thing about it are that, you know, the people that I'm learning it from are Black and white and stuff like that. You know, and not to bring that into the combo, but It's just like, like Drew, my guitar player, is probably like the whitest kid ever. But he talks about like some of the hardest hip hop ever, and just like knows, because he's like, this is what we were about. This is Texas. This was us, New York had their thing, California had their thing, but Texas had our dudes, and Louisiana and all that. So, it's an interesting journey, but the overlap, to bring it kind of back home, the overlap of hip hop and metal and rock, it's like a match made in heaven, that it's symbiotic in many ways. And I think, people say like, oh, I don't really like rap, or why do you bring rap into rock? But the fact is, rap and rock have been going hand in hand for so long. And if you haven't noticed, my friend, it's nothing new.
Yeah, and there's so much similarities, culture, and I hate to keep us, because I want to get into that obviously, but I also, since you mentioned Tupac, there are a lot of parallels, AJ, with your story and Tupac's story. I'm sure that's occurred to you before.
Yeah.
But we think of him as West Coast and California love and Death Row and all that, but of course he spent so much formative time on the East Coast, and he was, he went to theater school and whatnot, and then even Texas. To bring it back around to both of you, there's important Pac mythology from Texas. He had a tattoo that involved Texas. He was, some of his most notorious behavior occurred in Texas. And like you said, he had that, we think of him as a gangster rapper, but he had that Panther lineage and that, coming from the consciousness side of it. So yeah, I think, and that's part of why he's such a universally beloved figure, because his whole life story crossed over into so many different things where everybody has a different part of Pac that they could relate to. And then it brings us right back to Texas, and of course, rap a lot, and like you said, that Third Coast, and Hyro and I have spoken about this before, but I'm personally like a huge fan of the Dungeon Family and all those cats that came from Atlanta in the mid '90s. And obviously Outkast.
What I love, man, is how much respect rock has for rap. I be feeling like rap don't be having the same respect for rock. We get scared of guitars and certain things, but now you're starting to see the blend. But RIP Triple X, all them kind of people, Juice World, RIP.
Yeah.
But you saw they shows start turning into mosh pits. So I was really started to appreciate how they started taking on the rock vibe. You get what I'm saying? Because it's all the same attitude all together, in a sense. You feel me? But if you talk to any old rock dudes, even white old rock dudes, they name Public Enemy, you know what I'm saying? They'll start naming off a bunch of rap groups that, you know what I'm saying? You be like, wow, you listen to that? You know what I'm saying? Because they all, recognize the same attitude. So I love that hip hop is incorporating that rock feel in there now. But the problem with hip hop, sometimes they might listen to like some poppy ass rock and be like, oh yeah, I'm rocking out. But it'd be like, real
right. And well, you know what? That's interesting, because hip hop's always been the same way, right? Where for people who aren't into the culture or aren't fans or whatever, they just see it all as like rap. That's all rap. Whereas you dig into it, and just like in the rock world, it's like, well, there's stuff that's real. There's stuff that's corny. There's stuff that's pop. There's stuff that's grimy and hard. And yeah, you're right. That's a great point, because people coming into rock from the outside sometimes don't understand the difference between like
what's corny and
some corny hard rock and metal, and some real stuff that's actually coming from a different place.
Man. And just to pop back on the other point about hip hop, which is something people don't mention. I think Ice-T talked about this, but it's crazy because hip hop music changes with the drugs, which is the weirdest thing.
Interesting.
I've heard that.
Yeah, back in the 80s, you had cocaine and all. Everybody was on cocaine and all this. So the music is boom, 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 real at you. Then they start smoking weed. Then you get your NWA and your Snoop Dogg, and you sitting back listening, you vibing to the music. Then you come to H-Town where they sip and serve. So now the music is just super slowed down.
Yeah.
And then now we're in the era of kids doing, Molly and all this. So now it's all party music. And I say that to say, because me and my homie, we argue about this all the time. Eminem and Drake and all that. He's like, bro, how come the kids don't respect Eminem this kind of way, the lyricism? I was like, bro, the drugs changed. Everything changed, bro. You know what I'm I'm saying? They don't.
You get syrup and then you get mumble rap.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they talking about. They feel that more than they feel the Eminem. You get what I'm saying? Because what they're into, I don't know what. And then you got technology. The attention span is slow. They don't care how long you spit on your song in hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just want the feeling, like how you felt at that moment in time. They don't even write. They just put the auto tune on and they record, stop it, boom, pop in, pop in, pop in, pop in. It's a whole different world we living in with that kind of stuff.
So
and I love that on some of my music too nowadays, but it comes across as a different feeling that comes through.
That's such a good point too, and a lot of it's generational, right? Because I'm somebody who loves. I'm a student of beef and hip hop. I watched all those beef documentaries. I used to chase after mixtapes back in the days of mixtapes. Right here, like subliminals and answer backs and like the whole culture of the way people battled on records. And it's probably why KRS is still my favorite, because I think he's the best freestyler. He's the best battle rapper. He used to always joke that he had a song written for everybody in the top 10. Just in case something ever popped off, he's ready. And it's generational that there are fans who will think, I'm not trying to disparage them even, I'm trying to be even-handed here, but
they'll be like, that's corny.
Well, there's people that think Machine Gun Kelly won the beef with Eminem.
Oh, well,
it's like, you can only think that if you're of a certain generation and you appreciate a certain kind of style, to where you think those are bars. Where it's like Eminem just came in just doing a warm-up, just like getting his cardio going.
He didn't really flex on him. He didn't really flex on him the way he should have flexed on him. But the thing was, it was because I think, he was just like, I don't really have to flex on this kid.
Right. But, he didn't have to flex to win.
I want him to survive to live another day.
I rate the fact that Machine Gun took a swing though, because he said it. He was like, I respect you, but then when he said that shit about Haley, why is your dad always screaming on the mic?
Yeah. No, he had. Don't get me wrong. He had some punchlines.
I was like, God. Come on, leave this dude alone.
And I give him props for punching above his weight class.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
But the fact of the matter is, it's still like, it was. I give Conor McGregor props for thinking he's going to get in there.
For thinking he can Floyd.
But at the end of the day, it's like, come on, man.
That's the GOAT, man.
Look at it exactly the same way. It was Conor going after Floyd Mayweather, where it's like, all right, this is fun, but you're still.
It's one of those people you can say, shit, I win at Eminem. I win at one of the GOATs.
Right.
That's basically what it is. But he acknowledged me. The GOAT fucking acknowledged me. That's awesome.
But if you're a kid and you watch that battle unfold and you were like, oh, MGK won that, I think it's because you have to be coming from a certain perspective to where you're not the lyricism. Like you were saying, that whole school of thought, like that endless debate that happens now.
Well, I'll say
depends
this
on what you're into, I guess.
Nas and Jay-Z, when they battled, when you were younger, you felt like Nas killed Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Ether had a bunch of funny lines and he was just killing Jay-Z. But as you grow older and you listen to Jay-Z's takeover, you'd be like, whoa.
That is an
wasn't playing
excellent point. I never thought about that. That's an excellent point. Because because back in the day, and I love Nas, and back in the day, I thought Nas won that. No question, right? No question. Wasn't even a question.
Yeah, I mean, Ether was it, dude. Like,
Ether was it.
Ether was it. You Tybo hold.
In a 40 hold in a karate class or whatever. Yeah.
But when you grow up and you listen to Jay, you say, hold up, what?
Yeah.
That's so true.
Jigga doesn't
thought about
play.
that. That just blew my mind. You're right, because even listening to Ether back now through a different lens as it
was like no funny things here.
Yeah,
the soul.
I rock hoes. I rock hoes.
Yeah,
and that's what you tried to name your company after.
Yeah,
that was all funny and like, oh, cool, funny. But Jay-Z was
and it sounds different in 2021.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. In 2020, but again, like. But I went to a show that was like kind of this kind of event, and it was after Nas had signed with Rockefeller, and they were both there, and everyone was like, Ether, Ether, Ether. And Nas was like, nah, y'all funny, man. New York, you like drama. You guys want to see some drama. But the fact that they squashed it and stuff like that I think, was more beneficial to that situation in hip hop than anything. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and it didn't turn into, shoot 'em up, bang, bang.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. And I love that
man.
they demonstrated that, because to me, it was always about keeping it on wax, going all the way back. And that's like how it should be. And that's the sport of it. It's like boxing. It's like MMA. Like, yeah, you want some trash talk and everything at the weigh-in and whatnot, but ultimately it's about the skill against skill and getting in the ring and who's going to come out on top, and then shake hands afterwards.
That happens in hip hop because hip hop was such a competitive thing. I don't know if it's so competitive now where these kids be like, I want to be the best. But around the Eminem time, it was like, I want to be the best rapper. Before, after Eminem a little bit, I guess it started getting into fun rap, melodies and all these type of things now, I guess. Because I don't think, back then we used to judge whose verse was better. I don't even know if kids do that nowadays, who's got the better verse.
Well, and you had to be in it enough to get some of the dense references that were happening in the lyrics.
Because
that was...
Well, there's a lot. If you look at YouTube comments now and stuff like that.
Exactly what I was about to say was YouTube comments.
Yeah, you watch YouTube comments and you see like if someone has a feature and they're like, oh, this dude murdered this guy on his own feature. But again, it's not about lyrics. It's not about the lyrics. It's about who had more swagger, or who looked better in the video. Stuff like that. Who had more energy? And it's
Jay-Z and Eminem Renegade, bro. It was just like, okay, who got the best verse? You know what I'm saying? And
right, exactly.
Fuck in, dog.
Yeah. Well, and of course, LL and Cannabis started.
Exactly.
Started with
I always talk about that battle, dude.
Where LL has this kid on his song, and then he comes in and listens back to the verse, and he's like,
"Okay,
I'm gonna sign me on my own song." No.
Yeah.
But now to tie this into rock, is you could be competitive in hip hop and be beefing in this and all that. But you can't do that in rock and roll, really, because you need a tour. You gotta be friendly in rock.
Well, I mean, Slipknot and Limp Bizkit, they kind of did it,
Yeah, there has been some.
When you're up there, but when you're down, you're trying to beef. I'm not gonna beef with Korn. I'm gonna tour with Korn. I'm not gonna beef with. But when you're in hip hop, oh shit, 50 Cent the man. Let me try to go at 50 Cent. If I go at him right, I could take over 50 Cent. You get what I'm saying? That's hip hop mentality.
There was like band beefing back in the day, but now I guess it's like, yo, we all need each other now. So it's like,
exactly.
And it's interesting because some of those band beefs were some of the bands who were hooked into hip hop culture.
Exactly. They brought that into it. Like, I mean, fucking Corey was like, get this. That song, get this or get this or die. You suck, they suck. Like, he was really coming at him. He was coming at him hard, man, and those were bars, man. Like for me, because I was a metalhead, like I love rap and stuff like that. But I was a metalhead, and even being a New Yorker, I was in the New York hardcore scene, and that got violent, and that was
There's definitely beef in the heart. That
was rap
era
beef,
of the hardcore.
That was like street beef, like Boston bands were going at New York, the DMS and the Cruise and all that. So. And that's the point I wanted to make.
I know about FSU and all them old
exactly.
And New York against Cleveland.
That was a whole
like Integrity and One Life Crew and all those Cleveland bands going up against the DMS bands. Yeah.
That's the kind of the point I wanted to make was, talking about the crossover between hip hop and rock. Like I thought it mirrored itself so beautifully in the each genre mirrored themselves so beautifully and melded in hardcore, because if you saw the nature of hardcore, it was just like those dudes were rapping, they were rapping over just like simple heavy punk riffs, and then the breakdown started,
and especially those New York bands, they were also from the streets, and in a lot of cases the same streets.
Same streets that the rappers were from.
I'm still looking for a stick of it on jersey. I want the basketball jersey, but I don't know where I can find one that fit me.
Oh man, dude, you got you probably find a Madball one these days. My homie actually had one. He had a stick of it all jersey, man. And
that's
Rest in
dope.
peace, my boy Cliff. But
Man.
you know, that's where I got, you know, I respect what bands in the hardcore scene so much, because it was just like, yo, we're from the streets. We're from the same streets that people that are rapping, you know, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, and you know, everyone's got Air Max on and New York Knicks jerseys, and you know what I'm saying, and fitted caps. So it was like the culture really, really blended well there. And I think that's what people really respected Wu-Tang so much in the hardcore scene. Yeah. And why bands like Candiria did so well, because Candiria was kind of like Wu-Tang, man. It was aggressive.
My friends, Candiria. I love those dudes. I was in a little hardcore band that you've never heard of that toured with Candiria back in the day.
Word.
Getting the opportunity to watch Candiria every night for 3 weeks in a row.
Carly was on a whole nother level. He was in a whole nother world, but it was so aggressive. But at the same time, it had all the elements of rock music that you liked.
And they had jazz. Like that.
And jazz. Fusion.
Yeah. Crazy.
That'll bring you to the Judgment Night soundtrack.
I was just going to bring up the Judgment Night soundtrack.
That's where it changed. Exactly. Yes. That's the one.
House of Pain and Sick of It All was originally before the House of Pain and Helmet song. There was a House of Pain, Sick of It All song.
It was so influential, man.
Onyx on that thing too.
Mm-hmm. It was so influential.
Ice-T and Slayer together.
Yeah, man.
And that was, and people think about, you know, because obviously Public Enemy and Anthrax was a big thing, and that, you know, and there were bigger things, and obviously Rage. I mean, Rage is a great example because Zach was somebody who came from the hardcore scene. Like we're talking about, you know, this is the California hardcore scene. Yeah, he was in Inside Out, and gets together with these dudes who are playing like Led Zeppelin, basically.
I was going to say playing Led Zeppelin.
You know?
Playing Led Zeppelin with John Bonham type drums. You know, it's beautiful, man. And you know, one thing that I always stress to people, and why I say, you know, Fire from the Gods isn't so much a rap metal band, and I don't consider myself to be that good of a rapper. You know, I grew up in hip hop, and I love hip hop, and so I wanted to, integrate that into the music that I made. But at the same time, you know, like we weren't going to be some sort of variation of what happened before, you know, and that's why I respect what Hyro does, because Hyro really just brings in the straight raw aggressiveness of a hardcore rapper over heavy music, you know, and that's what made FU2 so special. You know what I'm saying? Because it had my just raw rock vibes, but you know, Hyro's very aggressive hip hop style and hip hop ethos, but it just really became, I think what it became was just this really cool song. It had all these elements, and you know, I think people are gonna really dig it. You know, I mean, I'm not sure when this interview is gonna come out, the song will be out by then, but I think people will see that, and people see that about Fire from the Gods, and they understand that about Hyro. You know, that we're not just rap bands or rap metal bands. We are rock bands, and we just have a different flow to it. So, you know, it does offend me when I see stuff on like the Octane comments when people go, don't, you know, take that rap out of my rock and stuff like that. You know, it still gets to me a little bit, and that just might be because of, you know, who I am personally. But in the same light, I also tell myself, like, man, fuck you, dude. Who cares? Yeah, bro. I'm gonna keep doing what I do.
It's one of them things, bro. When I look at like a Rage Against the Machine, it's in a rap rock genre, you can say, but they didn't create it. They created an emotion to me. It's an emotion. So now when I get on some rap and rock, it's gonna sound like Rage, because that's the only emotion that can come out through that sound. You get what I'm saying?
It's Rage.
Yeah, it's Rage, bro. It's like,
Rage Against the Machine is my favorite band. Don't get it twisted. Like, that's my favorite band.
There's no way not to sound like them, bro. You have to sound like them if you're gonna rap on rock. It's not possible. I don't see, because if I'm chilling, it'll sound whack. I have to come at you this way. And I have a high-pitched voice, I have a deep voice. It's gonna come, but it's gonna come at you in my way. And this is the cool part that I wish people could see on FU2, because FU2 was just me alone at first, and it was dope. And then when AJ come, he bring a whole nother style to this shit. Now this song is just crazy. You feel me? And that's just what it could do, because where he come from and where I come from just blended together and created something dope, man. You feel me? So it's just amazing how that happened.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, we definitely, like, we've said it and talked about it, and the people in our various teams have talked about it, about us collabing even more, man. You know, I just think it's right. The opportunity, the times are right. And this, again, might sound like a personal thing, but I want more Black people and kids from the hood that were from, like, my situation.
Yeah.
To say, like, yo, that dude's talking about me. And I do want to fuck with rock music more. And I do want to not be scared of guitar music. And I want to go to festivals. And, you know, every white guy with long hair is not a redneck trying to kill me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I just want not to interrupt. I just want the DJ Vlads and the DJ Academics them to be like, yo, these brothers here is rocking. Because DJ Academics did it once. He was like, yo, some dudes taking over rock. I'm like, who are they? Oh, it's not rock. What the fuck are y'all talking about? We the rockers over here.
Right. Yeah.
We rocking, bro. Introduce us to the hood so they can see what we doing over here.
Yeah, bro. Exactly, my breakthrough. Exactly.
And bringing it full circle with Texas and New York hardcore, and I've told Hyro this before, but a few years ago I was at South by Southwest, and standing on stage watching Sick of It All was Bushwick Bill. Rest in peace. And he's rocking out, and they were friends with him. They're taking pictures together, and you can see in moments like that. And I know it's such a cliche, and I'm gonna sound super white and cliche saying it too, but real recognize real.
Facts.
Dude, I was gonna say that early in the conversation.
Bushwick and Sick of It All, like, of course they're hanging out together. You know,
I was gonna say that early in the convo. Dude, that same South by, you know, Bushwick went up and spit a verse. He spit his Mind Playing Tricks on Me verse, man, over Deftones.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Digital Mouth.
Yeah,
dude. And I just wrote a song kind of based off that, because I was thinking about it, and I was like, it was such an incredible experience, and I was so blessed to have been there to just see him ripping it and see, you know, Cunningham, Abe Cunningham is just back, and he's doing that. And then fucking Chino's just playing the chords, and Steven's playing those little chords that open that song, and Bushwick is just going in.
Last year, Halloween fell on a weekend. Sick. Me and Ghetto Boys was trick or treat, and
and then just so seamlessly, he passes the mic back to Chino, and Chino, and dude, it was so incredible, the experience, you know, and Bushwick, again, rest in peace, bro, but like, fam, it was like, yo, this is it, dude. And as a big Deftones fan, as a rap fan, I was like, yo, I've never heard anything like this.
Oh, that's epic.
It was so dope. It was so epic, man.
And when you see those moments, I mean, yes, it's different things colliding and overlapping, but it doesn't get all the way back to the, like, Black Falcon. Like, it doesn't sound like rap metal or metal rap. Like, it just sounds like music, you know?
Yeah, it's just music. It's music.
Expression.
That's why, like, it just works, man. And even like the way, like, some of the deathcore kids, like, you know, they take the chopping style, that's, you know, the chopping style from, like, the Tech Nines of the world, and you know what I'm saying, those dudes, you know, like Franz, I mean, everyone has their ways of, you know, they think the way they talk about Franz, and they have their ideas about the kid, but, you know, the kid, he's throwing it down, you know?
Exactly.
And live, he does all of that shit, so it's not, he's not faking it, and there's clarity, you know, so it's like the elements and the culture of hip-hop and rock are just hand in hand and go hand in hand.
I like that Franz upsets people.
Yeah.
I appreciate that provocativeness.
He's unapologetic.
Artists, again, through all genres, because I think of that as like a Liam Gallagher and Axl Rose, a Tupac spitting at the camera.
Yeah,
so I always appreciate that rebelliousness that gets people real worked up.
And the thing I like to get across is like, yo, we not coming into rock to try to, oh, we gonna take over rock with hip hop and fucking just mess it up. No, we just fucking want to be us inside of rock. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I bring the mixtape into it, like, yo, check out what we do in hip hop. This is a mixtape.
Yes.
With features, bro. You know, I ain't never seen a mixtape in rock, so bro, here go a mix. We ain't doing shit right now, bro. Here go a mixtape. Feature some of the homies. Come on here and rock this thing, bro. And you just jam it like it's a mixtape, like a street mixtape.
It's perfect too, because it's like, is it an album and is it a compilation? No, it's a mixtape. It's a
mixtape.
It's a whole thing.
It really is. And it's not made up. It is a mixtape. You know,
right.
You got Dave Draymond, you got fucking Corey Taylor, you got
all this shit.
It's dope. And it's seeing these guys do what they do, but in a different light, with the same way. Like if you had a G-Unit mixtape and they featured, you know, this didn't really happen much, but like say like a G-Unit mixtape and they featured someone like from the Diplomats, and you know, you had like, you know, it was hearing together. It was hearing someone in a different light do something that they wouldn't normally do on their record. Yeah. And it was always like dope, you know, like some of my favorite songs were mixtape, like mashups that I heard off of mixtapes. Reggae used to do the same thing. You know, dancehall reggae. Buju would be on a song with a rapper, and it would be like the rapper's song, and it wasn't just a feature, it was just like a reggae song with a rapper on it, you know? And
that's why I was like, man, why rock ain't got, at least I ain't seen it before. Where the rock mixtapes at, bro? I was like, bro, let's do one then, fuck it.
Dude, Roadrunner had that Roadrunner United, and I talk about and I talk about Roadrunner United because again, it was one of the dopest records I'd ever heard. Dave Shivari,
the team captains, from Fear Factory, who's a Mexican American death metal industrial person, and then you have a team captain that's Joey Jordanson from Iowa. It's
dude. Dave Shivari on a song with the kid from Trivium. I can't think of his name right now. Matt
he was one of the team captains. There were four.
And just you typically hear Dave doing the El Nino stuff or the Soulfly stuff, and it's all rhythmic and stuff. But then he's doing like blast beats and like metal shit. But it's still his drums, you know. Yeah. So it was really cool, and I talk about that all the time about doing something like that again. But Hyro's like inadvertently done that.
Hyro's doing it. Yeah,
he's doing it
for right now.
So it's cool, man, and he's got legends on there. For me, I'm the new kid on the block, but to be featured on something that still has, Dave Draymond mentioned and has Corey Taylor, Brian, dude, I was a massive Atreyu fan, and when I met those guys on Disrupt, because I'd never met them before, I was just like, dude, I fucking Atreyu, because I just love that band so much. But it's dope, dude. It's really dope, man. And I think for the culture of rock and metal and coming out of this pandemic and the resurgence of just people doing something, getting out of their homes and feeling good about themselves, I think it's only right that something like this comes out right now and it's done right now. And people go, wow. Because people are hungry for something new, right? So they hear it and they're like, whoa, this is very interesting.
And in the time, and they be judgmental. I don't know why they do both. It's like, bro,
how can you be hungry and be judgmental at the same time? But then again, I just leave that for the black metal.
I gave you some food. Just check it out, man.
I leave that for the black metal and like the purists, the metal purists. I leave that for them. Like, whatever, dude.
But I love, especially in a time where things are so polarized, politically, socially, economically. And as we're sitting here talking about all this stuff and the blends of experiences and different people, I got to give it up for Jamaican immigrants in working class England who brought ska and that became oi music and reggae and all this stuff. The idea, it's such an alien idea to certain people who are set in certain ways today. But to think about back in the 70s and 80s, you had working class white skinheads drinking beer, listening to dance hall. You know what I mean? In Jamaican
Sharks, man.
And it's
like, I tell people to this day, I'm a skinhead for life. Man. For life. You know what I'm saying? I have that jacket that I wear live that has the Trojan helmet on the back and it says Sharps, and And people are always like, what's a skinhead against racial? How is that impossible? And I'm like, you just gotta know the history of the game, man.
You gotta know. You gotta know. And in fact, the real story is how is a racist skinhead possible? Those are the biggest idiots.
Exactly.
Because those skinheads were black. The original skinheads were from Jamaica.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't even know that history. You have to put me on that.
Oh yeah, man. And that was for me, a kid growing up in Indiana.
Yeah.
Growing up working class poor and being into different music and whatever. That was the first stuff that really hooked me, was discovering skinhead and reggae and ska bands that were coming out of England and being
man, two-tone music is, I was raised on two-tone, you know, and raised on the business and you know, the madness and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what people always go like, how did you get into heavy music? You know, I didn't transition into it like some people did. Like Metallica wasn't like my first band. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? You know, because I wasn't even that much into Metallica until like later in life, until I got a little bit older. But it was always, you know, I listened to ska, then I listened to punk, and then I listened to hardcore. And then from there, it was just like stuff started getting more heavier and a little bit more aggressive. And then ultimately I started, you know?
You started the right way. I was listening to Nickelback and Puddle of Mud. I'm a goddamn rocker right now.
Hey, it's all what the gateways though, right? I call those gateway bands. The gateway bands.
The gateway band
into the, you know.
Yes,
I mean, it's corny, you know. I mean, when I was in high school, I'm older than you guys. When I was in high school, and Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer and those kind of artists were blowing up. They were corny. If you were into real rap stuff, they were corny. But all those records that Hammer sold in the early 90s, that brought some people into who discovered real rap via.
I love Nickelback to this day. I don't care.
I fuck with Nickelback, dude. People chat shit about Nickelback, and it's like, bro, shut up.
I know, they're fucking awesome.
You know what? There's a video I always recommend to people. It's some European festival, and it's Nickelback covering. They only do about half of the song, but it's Nickelback covering "Sad but True."
Yep.
And
yeah.
It's so heavy. It sounds so good. They nail it, you know. And it's like, dude, you can't like.
They could have did something.
They got it, you know. They got the thing.
But like I said, speaking of ska, that out of the Nickelback and the Puddle, when I turned the radio station, and I was like, okay, gotta be other shit. Then I Rancid. That's when I heard Rancid. And I was like, oh, they got tattoos, and I was like, yo, this dude's crazy, man.
And Rancid is a style of punk that comes out of that ska tradition.
Out of the ska.
Yeah, man. I'll buy, dude.
Yeah.
I'll buy, bro. You know,
that all goes back to England, but it all goes back to Jamaica.
Out,
Tim's got a little bit of Cockney in him every now and then, you know.
Yep.
And he doesn't shy away from it, and I love that. You know what I'm saying? Like
the Transplants
you know.
The Transplants had a dude rapping in it, and you know, so yeah.
That's why Tupac was so punk rock. Because Tupac was one of the first rappers with tattoos on him like that. And you'd be like, oh, bro, only the white boys got tattoos. What you doing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Tupac
bro.
Came through with the tats. That was all punk rock shit that people don't recognize. He knew what was up way before, bro. You know what I'm saying? That was dope.
Beastie Boys and House of Pain, too, were two hip-hop groups.
Yeah.
With, you know, Danny Boy from House of Pain came from the hardcore scene, the punk scene.
Atmosphere, all those dudes, man. Like, they were all just, like, hanging around. They used to, like, hang around with each other. But another thing for me, like, when I moved back to the States in 2000 and went to high school, it was K-Rock. You know, the station. And that, I had heard nothing like that ever. Like, a station that was all dedicated to rock music, and that's where I like heard Korn for the first time, and I heard Slipknot, Wait and Bleed, and you know, I heard Fear Factory, and you know, and I got turned on to Roadrunner Records, and I was just like, oh my God, I lived in that world, you know. I wanted to be Chimera, I wanted to be, you know, Typo, I wanted to be fucking Machine Head, you know. I was that kid, and that kind of like really just evolved into me finally being the person that I could be and express all of those influences in a band. And, you know, that's why doing that through Fire from the Gods, it's like, you know, I still to this day, you know, go back to that as an influence. And we don't have that anymore. I don't think these kids really, the next generation doesn't have that. We don't have an Ozfest. We don't have the diversity and just the respect for each other that we have. And that's why yeah, there's a cool overlap, like Harry was saying, because like those kids XXX and Juice WRLD, you know, they grew up listening to like Blink-182.
Yeah.
They grew up listening to a little Slipknot, a little Korn. So, you know, that's why they've got like the Jinko styles and the chains and the dyed hair and shit, which is great. And it's great to show that those bands that influenced me also influence a different type of artist and a different type of generation. But at the same time, I would like to bring back the feeling and the emotion of what those bands did for me. And you see a lot of that in the rock, and you see a lot of that, you know, in this emo trap thing that's going on, which is cool. But at the same time, you know, let's bring back the circle pits and the mosh pits and everyone just having a good fucking time. You know, let's expound, you know, maybe hopefully something like Warped Tour, the Monster Tour, you know, maybe that comes back a little bit, and we have a, you know, maybe something like an Ozfest comes back where the lineup is just so musically diverse that it brings together so many different groups of people.
Lollapalooza was,
you know, Lollapalooza. Yeah, but you get like the heaviest band on Lollapalooza is like the Deftones, you know?
Right.
You know, and maybe you might get a hardcore band. You know, I think Fever was on, you know, I think Fever might have done Lollapalooza or something, or, you know, even Riot Fest. But Riot Fest is more dedicated to like punk and rock. Whereas, you know, the deathcore bands, you know, like, I think bands like Fit for an Autopsy should, you know, why are these bands? I know the music might be a tough listen, but these bands are so incredible. And the lyrical content and what, you know, the way the music's delivered and the rhythm, it's all dope. So I think we need to, you know, terrestrial radio, I say it a lot. It's like, how many times can we listen to Sweater Song? And I'm very grateful that Fire from the Gods gets played on the same stations as Breaking Benjamin, because that's where I've ultimately wanted to be, you know. But at the same time, it's like, how many times can we listen to Sweater Song? How many times can we listen to What's My Age Again? There are other bands and artists out there that are doing, if not better music, or just making really cool music that has taken the sound of rock music and guitar back music to another level. And I think the digital world needs to kind of catch up to it a little bit more. I think the radio stations need to catch up to it a little bit more. TV and needs to catch up to it a little bit more. And I think the culture of media, am I begging to be in the mainstream again? Not so much. But I definitely think there needs to be a little bit more light shed on rock music and guitar-backed music, because it's real. We are real, and we're talking about stuff that's on the heart, real emotion.
And we need
everything come back around all the time, though. You know, sometimes you gotta give it its time. And like you see EDM and all those type of things. And it's techno, actually just always come back every few years. It always come back around on some big shit, then it fall off, then it come back. You know what I'm saying? Rock was so big. I'm not gonna lie, rock was
massive.
So massive. Bro. It's like, bro, we used to be like, damn, man, how the hell we could be like the rock stars?
Word.
Like you said you grew up on K-Rock. I just grew up on TRL, watching TRL. That's why I knew Korn and all these other people. We just sit there and watch TRL, and you see pop songs, rap songs. You see
rock. People talk on TRL, but you could see Avenged Sevenfold and Marilyn Manson and Britney Spears
all in one
in the same episode.
Well, that really just tripped me out. That's, this how you make a pop song? Oh shit, this how you make a rock song? This how you make a rap? So that really just stuck in my head, and that's how I learned how to make music, watching TRL and Carson Daly and them boys, man.
Yeah, you're not lying, bro. You're not lying.
And that's the thing, to your point, AJ, about, you know, how many times can we hear these same rock classics from a generation or two ago? You know, my buddy Andy from Black Veil Brides, he makes this point all the time, which is
Andy Black, shout out, man.
You gotta give bands like Black Veil Brides, the gatekeepers and the purists and everything have to give them an opportunity to develop a sound and find themselves and get to there. Because we're so busy sitting around going, there's no more headliners, there's no good new bands.
Exactly. Who's the next headliner?
But then if you're ignoring like a Black Veil Brides, like, why don't you maybe give it an open mind or let them, you know, the Black Album was Metallica's 5th album. I love every Metallica record, but in terms of like blowing the doors down, it's like
when they broke,
artists like get there, you know, don't just throw it away out of the gate.
I talk about this with my homie over here. We argue every fucking day about Eminem. And man, these artists aren't like Eminem. I was like, bro, nobody putting money like that behind the artist.
I got it.
That's not gonna happen.
Too. Yeah.
Social media, Instagram, technology messed all up. So what happens is shit, Eminem, Rihanna, they make money already. Why the fuck I'm gonna try to build up some other motherfucker? These they making the money for me right now. So I think that's what makes it so hard to build up another headliner also, because I got my cash cows right here. We don't need to build up nobody else.
I think a lot of people aren't safe. People are just playing it safe, man. I think a lot of
playing it safe, man.
I think a lot of labels and stuff, you know, they play it safe, but again, not to just big up what we're doing, but FU2 is not a very safe song.
Oh yeah, and that's why I love better.
It doesn't follow the formula. It doesn't, you know, Fire from the Gods. We never go into the studio and say, oh, we have to write a radio song. Maybe now because we've tasted it a little bit, so we're like, wow, it's really cool. It's cool what can happen when you write a radio song, a typical radio song. So, you know, we are like, hey, let's you know, be more conscious of how we write our songs and structure our songs so that, you know, we can appeal. But at the same time, because our message is more important than anything. So if we can convey our message by writing cool songs, we're going to do that. You know, and to talk to the point about the money situation that you were saying, Hyro, I spoke to Marcus from POD while we were on tour with POD, and he told us some of the budgets for like shout out POD. Bro, he told me the budget for the Alive video, and I was like, nigga, police.
Yeah, none of that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
My family for 3 years on the budget for that video.
Hey, Matt from Avenged Sevenfold, shout out A7X. I want to say he told me the backcountry budget was like $500,000.
That's what I'm saying.
You could make like a Saw movie for that now.
Bro, exactly.
I mean, tell them, bro, there's no way there's gonna be another Eminem. They're not giving us that shit for no
and Avenge came in right at the end of all that. You know what I mean? Like that was
but they carved their own lane, man. I love Avenge Sevenfold, dude.
But the thing is, what happens is everything is a little bit realer now, though. Because now, if you come out too polished, it's not cool.
That's true.
You feel me? So people want that little raw vibe to it. And I think that's what FU2 and stuff I bring across, you know what I'm saying? Fire from the Gods. It just comes off real. You feel me? And that's you know, that's everything.
And bringing us full circle too, to early punk and hardcore, to early hip hop. One of the things that those subcultures have in common is the art that comes out of limited resources, right? So when you don't have a big video budget, you don't have the fancy gear, you don't have music lessons, you don't have access to certain things. Like that's where hardcore and punk came from. That's where rap came from, was like, I can't do something on the scale of what's big and commercial, but I can do this. This is immediate and urgent. And what can I do? How can I cut corners and make something, you know,
but kids are doing that now. Like Tekashi 6ix9ine and stuff like that, not to call names, but like, yo, I saw some of these videos like in Bed-Stuy, in Bushwick, and dude's just got an iPhone, you know, and it's just a bunch of kids in the street just going off. And these videos have millions of views. They have hundreds of millions of views, and people, like you said, like Hyro said, people respect a little bit of that grit. They respect a little bit of that raw. And
you like that idea that you could do it too. Because that was the attractive thing about hardcore, about rap, is it's like, oh, if it's just two turntables and a microphone, if it's just the same chords, you know, I can learn this. I can be on stage, you know,
But shout out Chief Keef, because I think he was started the wave on that. Chief Keef, the rapper, it's just like, bro, just put the camera in the house with my homies and let's just make a damn song, bro. And then started a whole new video wave of people just in the house, in their hood with the people around them, bro, shirt off, and then you got a music video. You ain't got to pay no money. You got a music video. Bam. You feel me? which good and bad, because now like I want to find $100,000 music video.
Yeah, go back around to that now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's wild. I always think about that though too, with the certain scale that the music industry in general has reached at various points. You know, like I remember, I won't name names on this one, but I remember a friend of mine who is a lighting guy was going out with a big band from kind of this same scene, and he was telling me that he had $100,000 lighting budget for this summer tour. And I was like, "You're getting paid $100,000?" He's like, "No, that's just the budget for the lights that I can get, the light show." And all I could think of, and this is maybe the more cynical side of me, but all I could think of, you know, the blue collar kid, I'm like, there's going to come a time when that bass player in that band wishes he had that $100,000 that they spent on lights 2 years ago or whatever. You know?
Like, oh yeah, exactly.
Energy saving lights. I mean, that's all I can find is energy saving lights, bro. This is all I got, man. Keep the rest stuff.
Yeah, and I understand that spend money to make money and the spectacle and all that, but there is also like there's some bloat that can come in where it's like,
hey, think about it.
Do you need all that? What can you do without that? And
yeah, but you know, if you're into the art like a Kanye show or a Lady Gaga show, the show is so.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love those. I love Pyro and
the massive production.
Yeah.
Like I think about me, if I got so big and I need this show, I don't want it to take away from my goddamn show myself. Cause I go crazy. That's my show right there.
Yeah.
A little fire, and I'm like, okay, that would be cool.
We consider ourselves the production, like Fire.
Yeah,
exactly.
You
know,
and that's like you mentioned Fever. It's like I don't know. Do I want to see Jason Butler with all this big, huge production, or do I want to see him in a club like jumping off the walls?
You feel me?
Yeah, fucking hanging off the rafters and shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what make it. So it's almost different factors going in all of this. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, I know we've gone over an hour here. I thought we talked for 20 minutes. I could talk to both of you hours and hours and hours. So I'm really glad we did this. I would love to do it again. I would love to see the two of you collaborate again, more beyond this song even. But this whole mixtape idea and bringing this into this world of rock and putting it, you know, talking about it as we have been with Knotfest, and Knotfest, of course, is becoming this cultural brand. Obviously, Slipknot's behind it, but it's also, you know, their management company, and it's all the associated bands and so on. And, you know, whatever we can do to spread this kind of thing, like what you're doing right here, Hyro, with this mixtape thing. It's I love even getting to be a small part of pushing it out there, because I love all this stuff we're talking about. The idea of continuing and carrying it forward and not just relying on those same old radio.
Well, I love Knotfest, man. I was like, really, we did Knotfest. That was like one of our first shows that really kind of helped Fire from the Gods, was Knotfest. We played the small, you know, Headbang for the Highway stage.
Oh yeah.
In San Bernardino. And then we got invited to play in Mexico, you know, and we played the main stage, which was dope as shit. So, you know, that's part of what I was talking about, just the culture really embracing and being out there and getting the word out.
Yeah, and, man.
You know,
well, I mean, when they hit me up, you know, their camp, they were like, you know, obviously the pandemic happened, you can't have a Knotfest. They have all this platform, these assets, because, you know, the YouTube channel and the social media and everything had X number of followers, and they were like, we want to do something with Knotfest while we can't have a festival, and contribute to the culture. And I just love that idea. Yeah. I was like, yeah, well, how can I help? I'm in, you know?
Hell yeah, dude.
And doing interviews and news stories, and when we were talking about film and all kinds of stuff, you know, it goes back around to that same idea where if something's cool, it's cool. If it's authentic, if it's true, if it's a movie, TV show,
more cool shit,
genre.
Cool shit.
Shout out Slipknot, shout out Knotfest. Thank you.
Not forever, bro. Long live the knot, man.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time to do this today. I want to do it again. I could chop it up with both of you about all kinds of stuff. I can just tell this, and this to me is also so. And this is why I do what I do, and why I love being on the journalist side of it. Is I love the discussion. I love the sharing of knowledge and picking up from different people's experiences. You know, because we're all the star of our own movie, and you know, we can't grow if we don't learn, and we're only going to learn from other people's stories, you know. So I love the storytelling that you guys do in your music. I love this song, and yeah, just much love, total support.
Man,
respect, bro. Thank you. Yo, Hyro, come through tonight if you ain't doing nothing, man. I'm out here. I'm back in Houston.
Oh, thanks, bro. I'm gonna hit the homie. That'll be dope. Come kick it for a bit, man. Y'all
come kick it.
Yeah, y'all sent a song too to record. We gonna work on another one. Fire, bro. You gonna dig that, man.
I didn't want to say that, but
I love it. I love it.
And you say fuck us. What fuck you do? And you say fuck us. Well, fuck you too. Fake news, all a bunch of fake news. Hashtags being used to influence you. Fake news.